Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. Here we are, Tuesday. Canada's come back from its funny holiday. I think we were the only country in the world on holiday, but nonetheless, Canadian markets are back open, so we can resume our previously scheduled program. Anyway, long and short of it here, Tuesday 19th. Actually, we had a really cool treat today, getting him up to speed. Kevin, my co-host for these daily briefs. I'm not sure if we call him co-host, but anyway, director, producer, chief bottle washer, and now awesome analyst, it seems. We had an awesome presentation in the daily brief from Kevin today. Sort of walking through some fun stuff he's doing in the stock market, as well as some chatter about Bitcoin, and actually really interesting and cryptocurrencies in general, altcoins, that kind of stuff. Really gave the community a really cool, different perspective. So thank you very much, Kevin. And all of you watching on the free YouTube page, maybe consider joining the site. I tell you, day in, day out, we have quite a varied offering, and definitely worth the monthly subscription that we charge for this content. Anyway, back to our conversation we like to have with you guys over here. Interesting to see our little breadth indicator perked up here a little bit here recently. I like to talk to you guys about things like the Russell 2000 versus the large caps. As long as this is pointing higher, then there is a bit of speculative money coming into the market, so that's kind of cool. Also, too, we had a bit of a thump in there on the U.S. dollar, bring it back down against recent lows. So that also, too, is a little sort of a risk-on kind of sentiment proxy vote there in the market. But I still think, this is starting to look like the bonds. It sure looks to me like we got one big honking narrow sideways channel working here now. Today's news was dominated, of course, by congressional testimony, and actually in front of the U.S. Senate of Mr. Powell and Mr. Mnuchin. Long and short of it there, the bankers have said to the U.S. government, we're not going to fuck you over. We want our cash cow to continue. So we will take interest rates on the short end as low as possible, taking them to zero now. And actually it was really interesting. One thing I heard out of Mnuchin today, which I don't think the public really picked up on, but it was really interesting commentary. Was he had said that the U.S. government was exploring the idea of floating things like a 100-year bond, and he couldn't. They couldn't find enough market demand to actually justify floating a 100-year bond. So they sort of came to a consensus that they'll float a new 20-year paper. And also, too, what I heard, which was really interesting, was I heard the pitch that we need to take advantage of the fact that interest rates are so low to go and borrow as much money as possible right now while interest rates are very low. So I thought those are two interesting statements coming out of that. It'll be interesting to hear if the talking heads picked up on that. Number one, there's not enough market demand for 100-year paper, so they've shelved that idea. And number two, the bankers and the powers that be actually would encourage lots and lots and lots and lots of borrowing here. And if anything, that may be the catalyst that actually rolls the bond market over and we start a 35-year rising interest rate market. You've heard me talking lots about that over months. I do believe that's in the works. The question is, when does the trend actually begin? If we look at the stock market basically heard all the messages it wanted to hear out of the bankers today. So on balance, feeling relatively positive. Had that big jump up yesterday following Friday's announcement that the U.S. Congress had passed another stimulus package. So right out of the gate Monday morning, stock market jumped higher. And actually, this 2-bar pattern's what we call a Joby gap setup, and actually a tick through that high is actually a buy signal. So we'll see how that goes. Show me a new high and I'll show you a buy, all that kind of talk. But I do definitely think that this rally is completely predicated on how the U.S. Senate now handles this next $3 trillion stimulus package vote. They said when it was going through the House of Representatives that the Senate wasn't going to pass it, but who knows? Let's see what happens. And then finally, does Mr. Trump decide to veto it? Because if I understand correctly, there's a bunch of pork barrel projects tied into this that anger the right-wing politicians immensely down in the States. But anyway, we'll see what happens. If that vote does fail, then I can definitely see the stock market's going to come back down. Risk will be back in the off category. And then quite often, I've seen this happen in the past, the stock market will tank, everything will just be like, oh, this guy's falling. And then the politicians will scurry back really quickly and pass the legislation, stock market bottoms, and we rally. And if anything, the thing that surprised me in April the most was how quickly and how completely one-sided that stimulus package vote was. I mean, and there was one representative that said, shouldn't we maybe just... and everybody's like, shut up! So I was actually really surprised at that, but nonetheless, it is what it is. So let's see how this current vote goes. And then, of course, also, too, we probably should watch over the next week or two. Do we start seeing these cases start to uptick and stuff? And if we do, following this opening up, then my hunch is we're right back in the soup. It is interesting to see that, the oil market was perking up and pointing higher there a few days ago, and that's sort of what stopped this M from coming in here. It's interesting to see that the oil has basically pretty much reaching its bullish objectives here. So I don't know whether asking anything more out of the oil market here is really realistic. Interesting to see, the bonds are now back flirting with the bottom end of this narrow sideways channel here again. And the gold, it started Sunday night, right out of the gate very strong and has backed off and is now trying to clean itself up. One market, for the risk off that actually surprised me a little bit is how weak the Japanese yen is right now. So, when I look at my risk on, risk off sheet for the site people in daily briefs and stuff, I go, oh boy, yen's looking very heavy again. Bonds, like we said, we got this crazy narrow sideways channel. Is it actually resolving now to the downside? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And I really did like that sort of strangle kind of thinking on the bond market because, frankly speaking, I don't know which way this thing's going to break. And there's the gold in this sort of risk-off category, still trying to press higher here, but running into a bit of resistance. Interesting, too, how the Bitcoin itself, I've kind of thought that Bitcoin is leading the market here, but we're getting a bit of a disconnect now. And what I'm kind of worried about is if Bitcoin does, I still think it's leading here. And if it does crap out here, are we setting a trap in the stock market? It is May after all. Sell in May and walk away and all that kind of talk. So, it doesn't surprise me we're coming in very late on the seasonal rally in the stock market. The public, of course, is going to be going, hey, this is a bull, go and buy. And they're going to be walking into a trap. And then, as we said there just a moment ago, I'm wondering whether maybe the bullish bots on the oil, maybe we've kind of hit some upside resistance there on the oil in the short term, but we'll see. Only time will tell. So long and short of it here, I think risk on is carrying the day. And interesting too, if we think about the metals, I might argue that silver is an industrial metal. Gold is a shit my pants metal. And interesting to see that the silver just keeps rocking and rolling here. It did not run into the selling pressure that the gold did. I find that fascinating. So, as we've said before, give some reprieve to the silver bulls and finally get this ratio back down to some realistic levels. And I'm kind of thinking you could see how the market gapped higher here on this ratio there recently, so probably we come down, fill that gap in, and then maybe that's basically silver hitting this upside objective, and then maybe the markets have to just calm down a bit. We will see. Only time will tell, but congratulations to Silver Bulls. That was one hell of a move. Okay, where do I want to go to next with you guys? So our risk on, risk off, it appears that the junior market is catching a bit of a bid. We'd like to see this break out through the top of this M, please. If we roll over here, then I'm going to be thinking more sort of seasonal tops. And as I've sort of said, I'm a little bit worried that maybe this is a little bit of a late market rally push considering seasonality. So be careful in the stock market, people. You know, S&P 500 sitting at a horrible trade location. I've talked to you at length about how I hate this trade location for Bitcoin right now. Well, it's the same thing in the stock market. This is not an easy trade, and that was the message I sort of was conveying to the group today. One area of the market I do see is catching quite a bit of a bid on sort of reorganizations within the space. There's one stock that's pretty popular. Well, I don't know if they're popular, but ACB, I think it's one of the bigger pot stock names. And they recently reorganized it. And the stock's just going absolutely ballistic here on the reorganization, which often happens, right? This really isn't shocking. But in essence, whenever you see this reorganization, it means they've rolled the stock back. Really interesting how we had a nice bullish engulfing bar. It's not a key reversal, but a very bullish bar nonetheless in itself. And look at the end result. Bang, 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 bang! Now, maybe this got a little bit ahead of itself. I don't know. But interesting. My hunch is the pot sector stocks are probably going to try and find some sort of bottom in here. And I've noticed, and you know what I wanted to point out with you guys was I really liked sort of the greenhouse angle of the pot stock play because you know, food supplies are in question if this virus stuff gets out of control. I really like what I'm seeing here sort of consolidation wise on a stock like this VFF, and I just showed you the US stock. Keep in mind I bought it in Canada. Being Canadian and all, but it is listed in the States, and man, I sure am liking what I'm seeing here. And you tell me, you know, you look at a chart like this, everybody should look at this and go, gee whiz, back down the bottom end of the range, filled the gaps in, here comes W's within W's. You think Brian's going to be slightly interested in a name like that? So that's the kind of thing that catches my attention in this market. So that's something for you to chew on. We actually had a lot of fun. I won't go into it here, but we had a lot of fun talking to Kevin. He loves warrants, which is a great way to play the market. And actually we had one in the pot sector. We had one warrant that we were, I don't know whether I mentioned it on publicly or not. I think I did, but you know, there's one warrant here that I was literally talking the other day about. The hell's the damn symbol? Some crazy symbol, isn't it? I got it on here somewhere. Hold on a second. It's called like T-God or something like that, and the damn warrants doubled overnight. So, you know, it's an excellent testament. We'll have our TRI SOF meeting tonight. Here it is, T-God warrants, 10 cents! Oh, man! Oh, Kevin, do you see this? Kevin, you got to say something here.
Oh, man. It's unbelievable.
I mean, this is the craziness we do. We were literally looking at this thing at 2.5, 3 cents yesterday. Look at it, hit a high here today of 13 cents. So, you know, that's the kind of crazy fun action we do at TRI. And this is in the stock market. And Kevin was kind of saying, you know, this totally reminds me of the altcoin, shitcoin kind of market trading. I mean, it's the same thing, but gee whiz. I mean, what is that, 4 or 5x here? 233% return just on the day. So you tell, these guys are in the pot stock business. So you tell me, is pot stocks getting a little bit of interest right now? Ay, caramba. Anyway, obviously you can't buy that one now. So the one that I mentioned to you today, which kind of looks interesting, is this Village Farms, which is in the greenhouse business. I tell you, a lot of these pot names. There's another one, new NBEV that we bought recently. looks really interesting. My David's Tea idea looks really interesting. So, do yourself a favor and go take a look at some of those names. All right, heading on over to the corn. The message obviously here hasn't changed a heck of a lot of late. Ironically enough, we're still sort of doing this. Is this a massive head and shoulders kind of thing? I don't really like the head and shoulders kind of thing because the right shoulder should be lower than the left shoulder. So I don't think that this is appropriate conversation now. Really, ultimately, the question is we're banging up against the previous highs. Do we break out? I mean, it's really that simple. You can actually see, and they always say that, there's two or three things that I actually like about the bull side here, but at the same time too, I can't be bullish until we actually pop the top. So I do completely understand people coming in against these highs and simply shorting. And we often say in trading, the harder trade is often the righter trade. And based on sentiment within the crypto space, I'm feeling as though the crypto space is very long and they need for the market to go up. So the easy trade, in my opinion, is just simply hop on the coattails and just ride the bull. I don't know whether that's the righter trade. That's the easy trade. I think the hard trade right now is to come in and sell against these highs. That's just purely my opinion, right? Doesn't mean jack shit, but that's just my opinion here. Working off of this chart, I don't really have anything other than, like I said, we're up at the top end of the range. We do have some, a coiling of momentum. Don't really have any massive divergence signals off of sort of like this 1 hour chart. Probably not even really that relevant here for you. The chart that I've been talking about in the public and I've been tweeting out is this one. And this is a higher time frame chart. And I think this really sort of typifies exactly how I feel right now. If this cycle plays out the way that previous halvening event cycle played out, I would think that we would follow along this path. It seems natural. It seems normal. It seems healthy. And you can see the AB, and then after the dead cat bounce and consolidation, CD, we harmonically played this pattern out almost right to the Q. So if I was sort of just, close your eyes, Brian, what do you think is going to happen? I'd say, well, probably something along these lines. That would be normal. Of course, is anything about 2020 normal? I have a feeling you're all going to be telling your grandkids about this. Oh, and by the way, I just want to mention here, I do know we have a few people that do watch these videos on a regular basis. If we are listening to Fed Chairman Powell and other very powerful higher up U.S. government officials on YouTube, number one, understand that Big Brother is going to definitely be watching that chat channel. So do not at me in the chat channel, because I do not want to sort of stand out to them. And whatever you say, I was shocked when I saw this, and I quickly had to reply to this. Do not say anything that is socially controversial, like civil war. Do not say those kind of things. You are just asking for trouble. And don't at me and say civil war in capital letters at exactly the same time. What do you want? You want the Canadian Secret Police to be outside my door? Is that what you want? I don't need that. Please don't do that. You know who I'm talking about. And I appreciate that you like to follow my videos and watch them and you like my opinion, but don't set me up for disaster like doing something along those lines. Thank you very much in advance. All right, back to your regularly scheduled program. Yesterday, I put out tweets to the effect that, what is this candle? This is called a doji, right? Where basically you have a wick and a tail that are almost the same size and you have almost a non-existent body. And it basically implies indecision in the marketplace. And gee whiz, here comes another doji bar today. Now, somebody even corrected me and said, well, Brian, you can't call it a doji until the candle finishes. Because I put it sort of halfway through the day yesterday, and that's correct. So we don't know if this is going to doji out here again today. But what this basically says is indecision. If Bitcoin is so bullish, if it's so awesome, where the fuck are the buyers? Step up and buy, bust this thing through the top here, and then I'll be like, okay, looks like we're heading up, rock and roll. But until that happens, I can't say anything. And I've said to you repeatedly, I absolutely hate this trade location. Ironically enough, if you are going to hold a gun to my head and say, okay, Brian, you have to do a trade right now, what's the trade you're going to do? It would be more comfortable for a gnarly old guy like me to just go and short against these highs and say, look, I'm going to risk against a breakout through the top and live with the results. Going and buying here, I think, actually is extremely risky. One thing I will say, though, I would actually prefer that we go this route. If we do just slowly M out here, the volatility comes out of the market, and we get a nice FU move, wrecked, all that kind of talk, some sort of, maybe Binance or BitMEX. I heard BitMEX, some lawyer dudes are getting ready to attack BitMEX here. Maybe that's the news. I heard that somebody this morning was passing out rumors and stuff that huge amounts of currency were leaving BitMEX, whatever, all those kind of rumors and stuff. Point is, that's ideally like how I'd like to see this, because at the end, if this happens at this point here, holy fuck, get super uber bullish. But if we do actually rally up top here and do this megaphone, oh boy, that really is going to bother me. So, for whatever it's worth, my opinion, what I'd like to see is I'd actually like to see this scenario play out. But we'll see what happens. Always dangerous to make predictions. I mean, you never know what the hell's going to happen in this world. Trade your setups. We did have little Davos that are starting to fire here, bullish setups off of this W. And if you look at things like RSI trying to break out, couldn't get through that W. Come on, you son of a gun. Williams percentage OBV did break out, but wow, where are the buyers? What's going on here? So, these setups did try to fire, but we're just stalling here. And stallage, to me, actually, I like it because, like I said, I'd actually like to see this scenario play out. But, if you are a bull, then you just got to sit here and just wait. There just ain't anything to do for a guy like me right now. So. All right, well, there's your Bitcoin summary. I hope you get some value out of that. Certainly not an easy level to talk about Bitcoin here right now. Finish off today, so this goddamn thing's going to be $20 here before the end of this video. Where's our... Oh, I must have put it away here, sorry. Let's try that again. So, I guess that was off of here, wasn't it? Yeah. So, just finish off this video with a couple ideas, throw around. Interesting. We like to keep an eye on the poop coin index, just to see what it's telling us. Again, I think I told you recently I'd probably be on the sidelines right now, just sort of watching, this is kind of like shorting Bitcoin against local highs. Hold a gun to my head here. I would say, geez, this sure looks like it wants to pop the top here. We'll see how it goes. I don't have a trade here. I suppose maybe 5-10 minutes. You might have gotten a little consolidation to play that move up, but there's no point in going into that here. And then finally, why would altcoins do well? Actually, what I see here is Bitcoin's had a really nice rally off the lows. Ethereum, Litecoin, well, not even really Litecoin that much. A lot of these altcoins are just sort of sitting there. I love this Syscoin. I think this is a great story. I really like the people behind the story. This is the kind of thing where some major corporation's just going to come one day and say, $100 billion, thank you very much, sold. So just keep building out your platform, guys, right? Just keep doing your thing. You are going to get paid. But, hopefully you got all you traders out there, right, trying to buy altcoins, make capital gains. Hopefully you can see the W is trying to come in at the bottom end of this range. Could we get a pop up into sort of middle of this range here? Give yourself the opportunity to double your money. Might be tough to get a double off in this range here, but there's probably easily 2 to 1s. And then, of course, if we do go and bust out these highs, there you can get your double off. But another name for you to consider. It's at the bottom end of its range. You can see the W is trying to form. And it's a kind of an idea that, maybe Bitcoin has to correct, and that's what pushes this up. Tough to say. But, food for thought. Take a look at CIS. It's one of my darlings. I've been in this thing since 2014, whatever. I definitely think it's an idea that you could consider. All right, I think we'll leave it at that. Of course, no guarantees from the management. PMA for the win. I think we still have a day or so left on this market madness promotion that Julian and David put together. So consider checking that out. And, of course, watch the Twitter feed. I don't really do Facebook too much, but, I was even posting when I get VCIM rational ideas. I don't care. I'll tell the world. I don't care if you buy this or not, but I went and bought more of this today because I absolutely love it. But maybe we'll leave that conversation for another day. All right, everybody. Have yourselves an awesome rest of your day. All the best, and bye for now.